And we are live. Hello, everyone. This is Peter Palmiotti, and we are once again joined in Studio Synergy, our 49th fabulous episode. So today with me, we have Ben Jones.
What's up?
A recurring nightmare. I mean, friend.
Yeah, heard that before.
Welcome, welcome. And newcomer, Zebethy. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Welcome, welcome. So, since people might be new to you, where could people find you?
On YouTube mostly and Twitter sometimes. Just look up Zebethy. The one that isn't somebody's mother is me.
Awesome. So, what are you up to? It's what, afternoon where you are?
Yeah, it's only 5 p.m. here, so in New
Where
Zealand.
are you at?
Yeah, I live in New Zealand, in Auckland, the
Oh,
Big
okay.
Smoke, with the
That's cool.
hobbits.
With the hobbits.
All right. They're good eating.
So, are you working as we do this, or what are you up to? Zebethy.
So I just got done finished with a page of comic. Right now I'm thumbnailing. So yeah, I guess technically I'm working while we do this.
Can you turn on your camera? I mean, unless you don't want to.
I cannot. The camera is a little bit busted, and I don't have my 1080p up here, so
Oh, okay. So you're just audio. That's fine.
I'm sorry.
No, no problem. I won't eject you from the hangout.
If I knew how to set up my phone as like a secondary camera connected to my computer, I totally would. But I don't know how to do that.
Well, in the future, once you figure it out, you're welcome to join us again. So, for those that don't know, you're part of the 100. You're currently working on your 100 Days of Making Comics. Yeah, go ahead.
Yep, that's me. I'm an animator and illustrator, and most recently I've started doing the 100 Days of Comics because I've never completed a comic, and I want to.
I know the feeling. Yeah, it's like I've been in comics since 1991. But as far as yes, in case anyone didn't know, I'm very old.
Not very old. If you're very old. I'm not far behind you. So shush.
I'm kidding.
Hey Pete,
Yeah.
do you have a link for this hangout in case somebody wanted to join? I can blast it on Twitter if you like.
Join
To look, to watch, to listen, blah
to
blah
watch. To watch is, let me get it.
I try to give you some hookup from some of the few followers I have. 3 guys in a Hobbit.
Does the Hobbit also live in New Zealand?
I don't know.
So I put it in the Hangout chat. I'll send it to your messenger as well.
I got it from the thingy.
Okay.
I'll blast it on Twitter for you.
You're good like that.
I try.
You got a bigger YouTube following than I do. So
Yeah, which is, pennies compared to YouTubers around. I guess because I'm not a real YouTuber, I just use YouTube as a tool.
Well, I mean that's what everything is. It's just a tool.
Oh, yeah, YouTube. I have absolutely no real interest in growth in YouTube. But slowly I'm feeling myself going, oh yeah, those numbers are great. It
Yeah,
would be great to use this as a tool.
yeah. Especially if you got anything to promote, it becomes, I think, a bigger attention grabber than say Twitter, Facebook, or any other social media platform. Um, it makes it easier. You can actually talk, quote unquote, directly to your consumer base. Blah blah blah. It almost feels like you're actually directly interacting, even if they're just watching a video. So,
I think that there's also like it's easier to consume because you don't necessarily have to watch and you don't necessarily have to listen. You can do one or the other, or in my case, I often do both. And when it comes to videos that have been pre recorded, I always listen to them at double the speed because it gets me through more quicker and I can consume more that way. So I think YouTube is great for that.
yeah, I'm definitely one of those guys. While drawing, I'll throw something on YouTube and just listen until somebody says something that kind of catches my attention, and then I swing my head over to watch for a little bit. But most of the time, it's just listening to people talk. So it's easy.
Yeah,
Yeah. Good.
I've sorry.
No,
I've
bro.
recently started listening to podcasts because I find myself swinging my head over to look at who's doing what with their art way too often.
Hmm. I've run into that problem as well.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's kind of like having TV on for a lot of the videos, so it's hard not to look. Um, but there are some like really good shows that you could pretty much just listen to. I mean, like I don't know if you heard of One Fantastic Week. It's these two illustrators, painters, do a weekly show, and it's it's very just talking heads, so it's just easy to listen to, and they have great business sense.
Yeah, I'm learning more and more about this side of the house. I remember there was a time when we just created comics. It's like now I got to do all this extra stuff. It's like, man, I barely have time to actually draw a comic, and now you have to do the self promotion, connect to the social media market. It's taxing.
It is, but it's like it's either that or just you're constantly looking for freelance work, or I mean it's always 90% work getting work and or promoting work, and just 10% actually doing the work.
Yeah. Well, even on the freelance side, from what I noticed, even on the freelance side, you need the social media footprint because even companies, I've been contacted by several independent companies, and talking with them, one of the first questions they ask, well, how's your social media? How's your network? Because they want to, they need that to help promote the books these days. So they actually pay very close attention to that social network footprint. So even on the freelance side, you still need it in today's market.
Yeah. um but if I mean, you need some sort of presence, and it helps to definitely have a following of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's like, if you're on a high profile book, it 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 helps your social networking, makes it a little easier.
Yeah, it does. It
You
really does.
know, it's like I'm working on this book down now, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Yeah, I just finished inking the first page of that, and supposed to be getting the cover to ink soon. Um, we got somebody working on a musical theme for it, and
Okay.
I heard the rough cut tonight. It's freaking fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah. Um, and it's like, we got the writer, we got the penciler, um, I'm the inker, got a really good colorist. I don't know if we have a letterer yet. I think we might have a line on somebody though. Um, we got a whole team behind us. We got interest with a couple of publishers. But worst case scenario, we'll probably Kickstarter or something. But I think between the members of our team, we'll be able to really promote it well once we
Mhm.
go full steam on it. Right now, we're sort of just putting together Ashcan for promotional reasons.
Yeah, and I feel, you doing these type of things, while actually in the creation process of the product, I think that helps get some eyes on things. You actually get to see people working on the product. I know that's what I did a lot of the videos for Asgard, so that people could actually see work being produced nearly in real time, and because I was already going to be drawing, all I have to do is essentially video it and show it. Um, so it really didn't add any more time to what I was doing. So that's how I said, well, I'm going to use this as self promotion for the book and the series, is because you can see me drawing on it, and I talk to people and um, talk about other subjects while I'm drawing, or I'll do a voiceover for the video, things like that. I mean, I have to streamline it to where it's easy or easier time wise for me. So sometimes I'll have 3 or 4 videos made just sitting on my hard drive of just me drawing a page, just all I was doing. And then I'll come back in and do a voiceover and say, this is what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah.
Do you think it's easier to do a Kickstarter or do anything like that, not go straight to a publisher if you
Yes.
have a moderate following?
Yes.
Ben did, for his comic Asgard, he did a Kickstarter, and he's working to go over to Indiegogo for your
Yeah.
second book.
Yes. The first book was a 0 issue. Now I start the miniseries. So, because the first Asgard was more of uh, a test to myself. It was my own personal crucible.
Hmm.
So I was not only creating a story, but also learning the ropes of comic creation. Just because you can draw doesn't mean you know how to draw comics. And so it was a whole learning experience, writing and drawing and creating the comic book from the ground up, knowing print sizes and where the trim lines are, where to put the art. I had to learn everything. Uh, so the story was a very general prologue to the entire story. You won't need it for the miniseries, but it will help in some aspects. So, but it was a good outing. I mean, considering this is my first book I ever done. Plus, it was the only book that I've drawn and written. it was uh, it was a learning experience to say the least.
Did you have to do standard sizes? Were you like going for the like a specific size, or are you just talking about bleeds for printing in general?
The bleeds for the printing, as an artist or as a comic book artist, just as an comic book artist, where a writer gives you a script, you draw it, you send it off. You don't deal with any of that stuff.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
mean, so all that resizing, making sure everything is within certain guidelines for the printer. As the artist, you usually don't see that because it's a digital file and it could be manipulated in any way. So you draw on your 11 by 17 Bristol board, you get it all packaged up and you send it off. Either you scan it and send the file to whoever for inking or coloring, or you're actually sending the hard copy board to someone, and it's pretty much out of sight, out of mind for you as the artist. If you're creating a comic, especially in this case with me, I had a colorist I hired and a letterer. I'm the focal point. I'm essentially being the lead on everything, the entire look of the book. So I had to pay attention to that type of stuff.
And is there a reason that you're going with Indiegogo instead of Kickstarter?
Well, I'm watching the market. Um, from what I've been seeing on Kickstarter, this was mostly for newer books or from quote unquote unknowns. Everybody seems to be making the same amount of money. Now, there's the outliers that, you get that occasional, this guy puts out a book and he gets 30K. They're rather uncommon. So I'm just been watching the market on Indiegogo currently, and there's a lot of outrage right now in the comic book industry. And when I followed my buyers and trying to find out who was my market and who were what was the demographic that wanted my book, it was this outrage group, and they're all on Indiegogo, and people are asking, "Hey, you're going to go to Indiegogo," not asking me, "Are you going to Kickstarter?" So they're specifically targeting Indiegogo, at least the consumers that want to buy my book versus Kickstarter.
Mm.
So it may end up being working out. It may blow up in my face. I have no idea, but I don't. It's
Yeah.
so I'll just go there, see what happens, because I'm asking for more money this time because I made a lot of mistakes on the first Kickstarter. So I've learned.
Yeah. I'll mention, well, number one, I did a video earlier, like 12 hours earlier. This piece I'm working on is for a Kickstarter called Welcome to the Void by my friend Chuck Pinot. Just doing this pinup for him. His Kickstarter is almost over. I think it's got probably 2 days at this point. But another the 100th member, Jeff Lafferty, just put his book, A Berserkernaut, onto Indiegogo. Right now, it's at $513. He's looking to raise $3,500. He's got 19 days left. So he's trying Indiegogo, and it's like he didn't get 30,000 on the first day. So
Yeah, and most people don't.
yeah,
I'm just kind of looking at, I keep seeing these larger numbers where Kickstarter I'm seeing for comparable books to mine, they're getting anywhere between 3 and 5K. And I think on my first Kickstarter I fell just short of 6,000. Uh but I just saw a black and white book on Indiegogo. New guy, never done anything else. He didn't have a big name artist. He didn't have a huge following because I went checked his his social media footprint. He didn't have this huge billions of people watching him. And I think he's Let's see, Indiegogo for Stardust.
um, there's a couple of people in the chat. If you're watching, we have Karen
Hi, Karen.
watching us. Hey, Karen. And Sketch Therapy, who has been a backer on, I guess, all the current Indiegogo projects.
Mm-hmm.
Stardust, Lone Star, Red Rooster, Iron Sights, Ravage,
Mm-hmm.
Cyberfrog, Jawbreakers.
Mm-hmm. The
Uh,
Comics Gate, the
yeah,
Comics Gate big guys.
yeah. He says, I don't trust Kickstarter. They bend to SJW. Like Antarctic can't trust them to back the artist.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. There, I want to say that Kickstarter is a more commercial entity than Indiegogo, just because they're more. I don't know how should I say they're more of a household name in crowdfunding than Indiegogo.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm expecting the same amount of. I mean, they're going to take out Indiegogo. I fully expect Indiegogo to take out the same. The money wise is probably going to be about the same for how much they take out and blah blah blah. So we'll go from there and see what happens. Yeah, look, Stardust. Stardust is a black and white comic. I can't remember to see how many pages. I don't see how many pages, but it's an all black and white comic, and it's sitting at 8 grand from a guy. I mean, it looks like a really cool book. The art is really cool. It almost has this Frank Miller style. It's a sci-fi horror story, which is a little different. So, um, and when I see that this guy gets 8 grand, I'm like, hmm. I'm like, because usually a black and white book is not all that popular among the lay person. So I was like, well, I'll give it a shot on Indiegogo uh versus Kickstarter. Uh,
You could be the example for all of us,
yeah,
having, done a book on each.
yeah, that would be actually kind of cool to say, I've done it on both. But this time, I think the last time I did it, I was asking for 3 grand or 4 grand, somewhere around there, and I ended up getting just under 6 because of the mistakes I made and not understanding as much as I thought I understood the cost, the percentage they took out, the cost of rewards, the cost of shipping. Almost $4,000 came out of pocket after
Oh my
everything was said and
goodness.
done. Yeah. So I kind of said, okay, I'm looking at those numbers versus these numbers, and I'm like, all right, well, it looks like 10 grand is about where I need to fall to give myself a big enough buffer to make sure everybody gets their product on time with proposed rewards without me killing myself. I still have some of the overseas packages right now with me that I'm actually looking at it on the floor. Uh, because of the huge amount of money that the shipping kicked my ass on.
I always feel really bad ordering, like backing anything
Why do
because
you
I'm
feel
in New Zealand. And
Yeah.
like, especially when they're like, it's obvious they haven't thought about it, and it's like free shipping too,
Yeah.
wherever you are. I'm just like, oh my god, do you understand this is going to cost you $50 to ship to me, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had it calculated. I had a rough estimate, or at least what I thought things would cost. I didn't research it as much as I should have. But when you have buyers in New Delhi, Slovakia,
Yeah.
Australia, Germany, Japan, see Canada. I didn't have anybody from Mexico. There was one in Brazil, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's about $5-10, and then you go there and it's $25.
Well, because you have to ship it, like if it's something that's purchased for you, you have to ship it with a tracking number.
Yes.
It's US and I think internationally regulated that way.
Yeah, and it the simplest way to say it is I got my ass kicked uh, on the shipping. In I think my at the end my shipping, what I believed shipping was going to cost, and that's even for here in domestically in the United States, it ended up being nearly a quadruple the cost. So yeah,
Dang.
yeah, it's just like, oh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, um, especially for these overseas guys, what I would like to do once this first issue of miniseries is done, since these packages are still sitting here, I'm going to throw in this version, the first book in their packages for free, and keep sending them out as I get a little extra money here and there to keep sending these bad boys out. And then it's just my thank you for waiting for so long. Um, I've already increased their packages with extras. That again, that's me saying, listen, guys, I'm sorry. Here's some extra stuff.
You're just gonna
Uh,
spend another $4,000 on shipping, man. Like,
yeah, is
goodness
yeah.
gracious.
That's what a lot of people didn't realize is like, because I get messages occasionally, hey, where's this stuff? And it's like, God, I screwed the pooch on this. But that was also the rewards cost. What I thought wasn't going to be overly expensive was a lot more expensive. Um, the book, I had these stretch goals that was stupid that increased the size of the book, which also increased the printing cost of the book. Then, because the book is now heavier, which increased the shipping cost of the books to me, which directly affected the shipping cost for me to them because now the packages are heavier. I mean, originally it was supposed to be like a 48-page book, and then it ended up being 72 pages. And it's like, oh, guess what? Since you moved from 48 to 72, you're no longer in the floppy category for printing. Now you're in the trade paperback category, which is more expensive because it has to be bound in a different way.
Yeah.
So I ran into every, I hope I've run into every possible issue. I mean, my colorist shattered his shoulder midstream. I had
Oh
to
my
hire,
goodness.
yes, I had to hire another colorist who was more expensive, because I wanted the styles to be somewhat close. So this guy was more expensive. Okay, guess what? That just increased the cost. It was just a multitude of things that just kept increasing the cost over and over and over again. Uh, and like I said, it just kicked my ass. So I have to make sure I streamline the hell out of this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're not the first. You won't be the last.
Yeah, and I hope people understand. Is like, I have no reason to not deliver this stuff. I want people to read the book. I was never in this to make actual profit, because 9 times out of 10, indie comics really don't make a profit, for the artist, especially when you calculate the amount of time it takes to create something this massive in workload. I just wanted people to read and enjoy the book, without diving too much into my own savings account, because that makes the wife mad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Um, I don't know if you know what's his name. Ray. Midnight Tiger.
I've seen his
Um,
stuff around.
yeah. He's published by. Um, I'm doing this all from memory. Action Labs, probably.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think they
it's
are
like,
Action Labs.
yeah. He did a Kickstarter. He was picked up by Action Labs. He did a post on Instagram tonight, or at least I saw it tonight. That there's a new team on the book, and his participation in the project is minimal. But he's just focusing on getting gigs from Marvel, DC, or equivalent,
Yeah.
or you know freelance work outside of comics, yada yada yada. he's like, there's no money in doing independent comic, essentially. You
Well,
know.
selling selling the independent book like you are Marvel. If you self-publish or even go through a publisher, if you think you're going to hit the market as this unknown product, and especially if you're a fairly unknown creator, it would be astounding if you sold 2,000 copies. And that's
Yeah.
usually like around the break even kind of part where the amount of money you've spent in overhead for the book, you actually start taking in profit. It's hard. It because I have the book, the first issue or the zero issue of Asgard on Amazon, and I was directing people there, and I think over the last year I've sold 5 copies,
Mm,
and
yeah.
at 13.99 for a 72-page book that people don't know about. People are like, I don't know if I want to spend 13.99 on a book like that, because I don't even know this guy, and I might not
Right.
like it, and blah blah blah. Oh, and then Amazon is only going to pay me $6.70 per sell because they're handling all the fulfillment. So I'm not making anything really per sell. I'm making a little, maybe $1 or two when you calculate the printing cost, or essentially the real cost of every book, when you calculate all of your overhead. So it's like, ugh. That's why, really and truly, your crowdfunding needs to be your main source of profit.
Yeah. Um, Sketch Therapy said, "Ooh, Marvel, you just made me gag." Um,
Where are you seeing these at? Where are you seeing these?
in the in
They're
the in
in
the video
queue.
chat,
I don't see it. I see group chat. Where's that?
top,
I'm like, who's
you're on the video page.
yeah.
Are you on the YouTubes?
You,
No, he
you,
didn't give me the YouTube link. God damn it.
It's in the Google Hangout.
I sent it to your messenger.
Oh, I thought you sent the Google Hangout. Let's see. Maybe I'm tripping. I'm told you I'm getting old.
Man, you're
It wouldn't be
older.
no, no, I am not. Okay, there it is. That's much better. Poor Marvel. I feel sorry for Marvel these days.
Well, they do a lot of crap.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Especially the artists. They're not bad artists. There are some very accomplished guys I see drawing. Not even the old school guys, but some newer guys. It's just the art isn't exciting. When I pass by that book in the comic shop or see the cover on Twitter or whatever, it doesn't excite me. It doesn't make me say, "Ooh, I want to check that book out." It's just, "Oh, look, it's another one of those books."
I mean, it's like I worked for both of them back in the '90s, and um, I know back then, like I was frustrated, like trying to get like consistent work, trying to be a team, and I did that on Aquaman for a while, and that was freaking murder. Um, but that's, as a fan, that's what I enjoy most, seeing a consistent team on a title, and more than anything else, what bugs me is that they're just not willing, and I understand why from a business perspective, but they're not willing to, um, you know, give rise to like artists, really, because then they'll have another uh, image fiasco kind of thing.
Well, I
Well,
think.
my biggest
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
mine was just as a consumer. But like my biggest issue with comics these days is, well, in any days, is I'll find a comic that I like, and it won't keep a consistent artist or a consistent art style.
Yeah.
And because of that, it throws you from one loop to the next, and you're just like, oh well, I know that I'm supposed to be in this story, but these pictures are completely like they're different enough to make you feel uncomfortable. And like
Yeah,
not in a progressive way.
yeah. That is a problem. It's not their only problem. Probably not
No.
even their biggest issue. Uh, but it's it's the fact that, like, see, me, I've always loved the Marvel characters. I've never been that big on BC or DC's characters, but I'm an artist and I tend to follow artists over writers, especially for comics. All the artists that I enjoy, they're all working at DC. So, and then I pick up a Marvel book and I was like, okay, well, I'll just take it in the face on the art because the art's really not my thing. And I open the book and the story is this weird uh a mess where I don't recognize the characters from the writing nor the art, and I have to sit back and I was like, what the hell is this? I kept standing back and kept wondering, why aren't I buying Marvel books? And then when I started putting two to two together, it's like, well, the art doesn't attract me. B, the stories are um not the things I want to read about, not the type of characters I want to read about. Um and that's outside of the political stuff uh that they're throwing in on to the Marvel side. She's like, it's just not me. It's like you're
Yeah.
really starting to feel old.
Yeah. I mean, it's like sketch therapy is really going off.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's
But
fine.
my standpoint is like, like they've done extremely great stories and they had great artists and done great books. They have awesome characters. Um, but regardless, like, we're all independent comic creators in this hangout. How do we reach that bigger audience in order to survive doing our own creations? Is the point of all this. It's like, regardless of what we think about Marvel, it's like they have the built-in audience. We
Yes.
don't. We can, post an advertisement up on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or whatever, and it could get seen by one person, and that's not going to make our living.
Exactly. And now I was reading Sketch Therapy's post here. One of them really caught my eye. Hold on, let me get back up here. Uh, where did it go? I know he said something. He or she, I don't know. If I guess it's a guy. If you don't do it for profit, I don't trust your administrative ability to fulfill. You better want profit. This isn't Marvel. I'll explain what I mean by um, if you're in a business of selling any type of product, you want profit. In the end of the day, you want a profit. It's just the fact that I understand the independent market. Therefore, I don't necessarily expect a profit. Um, if you're looking for a large sum of money or a lucrative business model, comics is usually not on the top of the list. Uh, for me,
Art is not on the top of the list.
yeah. So for me, creating these stories and creating these comics, this was what I wanted to do even as a child. As an artist, when I was in high school, I was never the guy that wanted to work for Marvel and DC. I want to draw Spider-Man or I want to draw Superman. I was never that guy. The image guys are my foundation than the legendary artists that ended up working for Marvel and DC, where they created their own worlds, created their own stories, and changed the market forever. And that's what I would love to do. Yes, I would love to make profit, because if I did make profit, I could do this full time. This could, I could go from um, being an engineer and drawing, or using the engineer money to supplement the art or the cost of the art, versus doing that full time. I would love to be able to do that. I would love to make enough money to where I just did that full time and created these universes and created these characters for people to enjoy. Uh, but since I'm quote unquote later in life, I get the biggest bang spiritually wise when I have fans come to my table and say, "Man, I just loved your book. I just loved it. I've read it 3 times. When is the next one?"
Mhm.
That is very fulfilling for me, because I was able to create a product that not only did someone enjoy, but with a lot of people that told me, professional and non, that I couldn't. Uh, So for me, that's the biggest point of me. I mean, I could stop drawing comics. I could stop drawing completely today, and my financial status in my house does not change. Well, it'll probably change a little bit because I have a little bit more money, but I'll have more money.
And
Uh,
more time.
yeah, and more time, But this is what I love. I love creating these stories, and I think that's one of the reasons I stopped buying a lot of the comics, especially at Marvel, where I don't feel the love. I don't feel the creator's passion in creating a good story. It going along with the Comics Gates guys, and that's why I joined their group, was it feels that politics and agenda was more important than story. You know, don't give me a weak story, but promoting stuff that I may or may not agree with, versus just tell me a damn good story. I mean, forever X-Men were telling an allegory to the civil rights movement using mutants. Most people didn't even get it because they were telling good mutant stories about characters. They weren't telling you any of all this other stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Sorry, I tend to ramble.
Yeah, yeah.
Rambling's fine.
Show me artist who doesn't ramble.
Yeah, because we don't get to talk often, so when we get a chance.
God, I talk all the time. Generally about nothing. I don't know. I think that to a point there should be political stuff in comics. I just don't think that everything should be about the political stuff and heavy-handed movements. If you want to make something new and have it be about politics, do that and do it in a way that makes sense.
I agree wholeheartedly.
I think the problem that they're coming into is that they want to shove those ideals onto a platform that doesn't make sense.
Uh, well, I don't know if the platform doesn't make sense, but ramming your
I
agenda,
didn't mean I didn't mean comics. I just meant like
the
so
entertainment.
say the specific the specific stories, like slamming those agendas into specific stories or storylines and completely changing them.
Later, Karen.
I can't.
Bye, Karen.
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. What I never understood, I'm a black artist, and which throws a lot of people on Twitter. They're like, "You're part of Comicsgate." They don't allow black people there, which is always funny. Um, uh, the biggest thing, growing up reading comics, I actually learned to read reading comic books, and I didn't look for a black character. Now, as I grew older, I was like, man, where's, I would like to see, some of us or whatever. Um, but I didn't, scream at Marvel and DC, give us black characters now, and using that as my platform to get something done. I became a creator and I created black characters. Um, and that's my way of saying, hey, guess what, guys? We're just like you. We want to see our stuff, and I'm creating a good story with black characters. Uh, and the trap that the let's see, the trap that I would have to say currently the LGBTQ plus group that are pushing this currently, they haven't realized that you cannot force someone to like something that they do not like. So create your characters if you want representation for whatever sexuality, whatever race, whatever political thing that you want to do. But that can't be what the story is about. If I ask you, what's your story about? What's your character about? And the first thing you say, well, they're lesbian, they're gay, they're trans, they're black, they're Puerto Rican. Those are parts of the story. Give me, what is your story about? Who is this character? Race and gender identity isn't the story of that character. There are more facets to that. And you have to understand the market, that some of these consumers, or a large group of these consumers, don't necessarily agree with your agenda. So the more you shove it down their throat, the more they're going to pull back. The more they're going to fight against yours, because they're going to see it as agenda pushing, not creating characters and story. And I wish I could tell that to the Marvel heads.
Well, like as a gay Middle Eastern woman,
In New Zealand. Wow.
in New Zealand, um,
That's
I,
awesome.
I have to agree. I don't think it's the LGBT community as a whole's issue. It's definitely not. They're pandering, and it's
Oh,
kind of sickening
nail on the
because
head. Oh, I agree.
because the amount of I've grown up going, okay, so where am I in these characters? Okay, great. I am a damsel in distress for the rest of my fucking life. Um, or I am this or that I have been cast into. And as I've grown older, there are more representations. And that's because people who not necessarily are pandering, but people who want to have their own voice seen in the world are actually creating it and having that picked up. So it's kind of why I was very interested in the indie scene and why I've kickstarted things or why I've supported people. But I find that the biggest issue with large corporations is they want to have all of these things seen in places that don't make sense, or the main issue is, oh yeah, this character is gay and that is the story. Okay,
Yes.
they are gay Superman. Cool. Great. I don't need gay Superman. I need
Superman.
a character. I need Superman who just happens to be gay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I thought they did Midnighter and Apollo. I thought, this is a gay couple superhero team, but their sexuality doesn't overpower their story, granted. And they never really even pushed those characters in their own books.
Mm.
Like, you have the properties right there in front of you. Push it. But they would rather come back and change an established character into that and say, and make it okay. I'm bringing up Iceman. That still burns my ass.
Yeah.
Because it was never built that way, and it was done at a time period where the consumer base can easily see the pandering that you're doing. When I joined Comicsgate, I kept saying, it was like, they're putting these characters what is tantamount to blackface. They're making caricatures. They're almost making fun of your community And when people like me stand up and say, that shit's not right, you know what? I get called the racist. I get called the white supremacist supporter, which completely goes against my self-preservation. I get called the homophobe, the transphobe, or whatever. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, your platform for wanting diversity and wanting these characters is a good platform. But what
It's
I'm telling you, how they're doing it is fucked up.
I think that communities are just they're so starved for that recognition that they're willing to jump at anything. It's kind of like um so people who fangirl or fanboy about things and then they have headcanons and then that
Mhm.
headcanon is canon in their mind. If you
Yes.
say anything against that, you are attacking them. And I think that they're so ready to see things in the media that no matter what it is, they latch onto it. If it's queer baiting, they latch onto it. If it's essentially a horrible caricature, they latch onto it for better or for worse.
Yeah, I agree. But I think the part that burns me up the most is they're every when they have this stance that they want diversity, and when these characters pop up or characters are changed to meet what they have quote unquote desired, they attach a moral equivalency to that character now. So if you stand against that character or them changing that character to meet this quota, you are morally suspect because you're now going against our platform of diversity. No, I'm going against you changing that character. That's my issue. Hey, I don't care. I mean, there have been gay characters uh throughout comic book history here and there. Promote them. Put them on a big thing book. If you want that representation, you already have them there. I think the Supergirl show that's coming out or the next season they made one of the characters transgender. Is that right,
Yeah.
Pete?
Yep.
Yet DC already had a transgender character that they instead of using the transgender character they actually had, they changed another character to meet that representation that call to diversity. So that's where I have the problem with it. It's like, why change that character? You already have one. Change, just use that one.
Not only that one, but bring them to the forefront. If it's a more obscure character, especially, because then you can build more canon or lore on
Exactly.
them.
Exactly. I just don't understand it, but it's a popularity thing. They're going to use the most popular characters. Why? Is because they're afraid it won't sell. Therefore, they use a popular character. Let's change the popular character to meet that criteria, be it race or sexuality and or gender, um, because it already has that household name, and the book will sell. And those of us that like our character or the character the way it was, and we've read this character for decades in some of our lives, me and Peter's,
Mhm.
we've grown with this character. We essentially know who this character is. We have, decades of books created on that character, and then when you make that left turn just out of, again, and excuse the pun, but when you make that turn out of the blue, and while we're complaining about it happening into others, I have to say something. Um, and it's actually been kind of tough, over the past couple of months because I did stand up and say something, and I don't get the overt tweets, but I get the DMs of you're a racist, you're Uncle Tom, you're a gay hater, you're a transphobe. I mean, I've gotten the whole list. The Uncle Tom, God, that really pissed me off.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm like, I'm willing to support you. If you want to put a book out and it's a good book, I will say to the top of my lungs, man, that was a damn good book. I don't care if it was a gay book or a black book, a Puerto Rican book. That's just for you, sketch therapy. It doesn't matter. If it's a good story, it is a good story. If it is well drawn, it is well drawn. It matters not who did it or what identity that they proclaim to be. If it's a good product, it's a good product.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it to me is just headlines. It's like they're trying to sell another 1,000 copies because they're reaching out to another audience. They're not doing quality books. They're just,
Yeah.
pushing this stuff out.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think making slight variations makes sense. I think
Slight.
that slight variations make sense. I I think that moving on with the times makes sense.
Hmm.
But I think that if you have a whole bunch of superhero characters, or you have a whole bunch of freaking people in space, or you have a whole bunch of people in Mordor, you should change. Like, if the story is going to continue to evolve, it's going to have side characters. You should include
Hmm.
them, bring them, like, you should include these characters that you want to be in there, bring them to the forefront. If people, like, people will be happy because they'll be included, and you'll give them somebody new, and nobody will be angry. Like,
No.
nobody will be angry.
And that's my point right there. That's my point. And if you're a writer worth your salt, then you can introduce this character and have them talk about, let's just say, homosexuality. You can have this character talk about homosexuality, and you can have a counterpoint character in this story where now it's a back and forth, where the reader is now involved with this conversation between these two characters versus just getting slammed in your face with, this is the right way no matter what, and all of these characters believe that. It's like, no, this character is this character and he might have a different opinion. Put that on the page, let them talk it out.
I
I know.
think I think that's very important, especially since we live in a world that, like, I don't know about other people, but when I was a kid, I got the crap beat out of me for being gay.
Hmm.
Like, I wasn't like, I've always been a very feminine person. I'm female. I know that's very confusing, but
Not these
I'm
days.
female, and I've been very I've always been, like, very feminine, but
Mhm.
I got beat up for being gay. Like, there's
And
going
no,
to be people who don't agree with it.
yes, and that's a story element right there. That tells something about the humanization of these quote unquote superhero or fantastical characters. I know in Asgard, for not the issue that I'm going to go to Indiegogo, but the one after, I have a very militant black character, and I have the more conservative black character, where I wanted to show this juxtaposition of, yeah,
Juxtaposition.
like my tongue went left instead of right. Uh, I wanted to show this black culture switch where you had two black characters with two completely different identities. It's very much kind of almost like they did it in Black Panther, where they're both from black culture or African culture, but they have completely two different views of the world.
Right.
um, and that's what I wanted to introduce into this book, and that was my little piece of black culture that I wanted to add, because I remember growing up. I'm Zebethany might not understand this, but I'm a what's called a Cajun here, or Creole. So our race, or our,
Louisiana.
yes, that's where my family is from. So
Yeah.
we're this huge melting pot of races and ethnicities all smashed together. So my life as a quote unquote black man is way different, way completely different than a black guy living up in the Bronx.
Yeah.
And then I went through issues in black culture where I was considered either I was too light skinned to hang out with the black people because they thought I was mixed with someone, and then the whiter side of culture didn't want me because I was a black guy. So I always, instead of saying how wrong that is, I want to put it in a story and show people, and that's how I think things should be. If you have these subjects and you have these ideas and you have these things, like you said, you were beaten up so and so as being a homosexual, then use those stories, because for us it becomes therapy, because we can actually kind of peel back the onion, so to speak, and look at that as a story element, and you can put that emotion directly into the book. And for me, that makes a book 30 times stronger, because now you can feel that connection to that character, even if you don't connect with, if you're a heterosexual guy but or woman and you read that, you can feel that emotional, that empathy for that character, which connects you stronger to the character, which makes you want to buy the next property.
When it comes right down to it, like, reading a book that has a male or a female character, like, just put it really simple, as the lead character, I could relate to a female character just as well as relate to a male character.
Mm-hmm.
If there's elements within that character that I have faced in my life, so if it's a trans character or a black character, or it's like any combination, whatever, just make it a deep character with the character's own perspective, and don't just hack slash it together
And tell me to
us
like it.
to believe it. Yeah.
I think a big part of it though is like, so as a gay person, I know that I am not only gay.
Yes.
But because of how society is, being gay or being black or being Middle Eastern or Asian, or that gets rolled into who you are. It gets rolled into your culture, and you don't think about it. Like, I don't actively think, oh god damn, I'm so gay. Like, I mean, sometimes I do, but like, for the most part I don't. I don't think, oh blah blah, I'm like, I know I'm married to a woman, but that doesn't feel othered to me because it's just my lived experience. Versus like all of the comics that are so aggressively one thing, aggressively about just being one race or just being this or just being that. I can't latch onto it personally. I find it, even when it's like about being gay, it's just too aggressive.
Okay, that's what
If
I
that makes
always
sense.
I wanted to, because I was just telling my wife, I was like, I want to sit down with like trans and like a trans and homosexual community to understand. And the reason why is because the first email I got when I put out Asgard on Kickstarter was, "Do you have any gay characters?" And I was like, "No, I don't know." They were like, "Well, why not?" Well, I didn't even think about that. Plus, sexuality, quote unquote, is not part of the story. And it's like, well, you need to have gay characters. And I did take a step back. I was like, well, maybe I could have a gay character. But then, something in me was kind of burning up. Like, okay, why should I put a gay character when a gay character means nothing to this story? It does not promote the ongoing of this story. So what I wanted to do is, since I have you here, do you feel that the current vision of homosexuality, at least I'll say in media in general, as far as movies and books and comic books, is it a realistic view, or a stereotypical view of homosexuality?
I'm
In your
not
opinion?
certain what you, I'm not certain what you mean. Like I can't speak for everybody.
Hmm.
But like out in the wild, I'm I'm an art teacher, so
Uh-huh.
I have a lot of students who are gay or trans or
Hmm.
bi or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and then out in the real world, when I'm walking and doing my everyday thing, I meet a lot of people who are.
Hmm.
Um, as far as representation in the media, I don't know. I just would like to have some lesbian characters not die 4 episodes in.
Hey, you're talking to the black guy. We never survive movies, so.
Hey, hey, at least you know you're gonna die first. I guess with lesbian characters, at least you know you're gonna die.
Yeah. My wife is what you would call a very, very strong woman.
Yeah.
Uh, she is not a feminist. Actually, she really hates feminists. But I love strong female characters. I don't care if they're gay or hetero or whatever. I love strong female characters. I was raised by a strong mother, a very strong mother, and a very strong grandmother. So I do have an affinity for very strong women. I've been having this problem with female characters, their depiction in media where they say, "Oh, strong, it's a strong female character." Oh, and then you read the story like, she's a dude." Like that mm, she's a dude with breast. She's not a strong female character. There's no femininity about her. What what's going on? Um, and I kind of see it with the homosexuality where it's a strong gay character, and it always feels like a caricature or a stereotype, like, "Hey, I'm gay," and I'm like, "What? That I know gay dudes. There's some gay
I know
dudes
gay dudes.
I would mess with."
I know some very effeminate gay
Yes.
men, and I know some very like
You wouldn't
I
know.
would I would I would be scared. Like
Yeah.
they're tall and beefy and their voice is so deep. Um and like no femininity about them. And I think that's great. I think that there's such a huge diversity in the LGBT community that yeah, isn't represented on
See, it's that
film
time
or
again.
in media.
I want more Italian superheroes personally. That's all I'm saying.
See, that would be
Italian
cool.
ones.
That would be cool. I know the guys, some of the attacks on me when I joined Comics Gate. They were like, that's anti-diversity. I have a Samoan chick, a black main character who's dating a Mexican chick. I got every race I could think of in this book, and I'm not being diverse. Like, okay, guys.
Well, it's like my wife wrote a book, and in the book, like there are gay characters, there are straight characters, there's some trans characters, and like she wasn't being diverse enough for some people. You're not going to please everybody. And
Mm-mm.
in reality, like, I'm sorry, I don't know if the person I'm talking to is gay, straight, bi. I can tell what they are based on what they tell me.
Correct.
If you looked at me, if you met me, you wouldn't be like, oh, that's a Middle Eastern woman. You'd be like, that bitch white.
You
I
sure you're not American? Are you sure?
Oh
I
no,
didn't.
I am American. I've lived here.
I was like, okay, wait a
I've
minute,
lived
wait
here
a
for a
minute.
very long
That
time.
this is a. I'm like New Zealand. I'm like, man, I need to take a trip to New Zealand because they talk like us.
Uh, no. I was born in California.
Oh,
I
okay,
lived on a military base there. I've lived all over the states.
okay,
The last place I lived was North Dallas, Texas.
oh, okay. See,
Yeah.
I'm from Orange, Texas, right
Orange,
outside of,
Texas.
right on I-10, right outside of Houston.
My mother-in-law used to live in Louisiana, or still lives
Mhm.
in Louisiana. So yeah, But no, I'm not. I'm not a Kiwi born and raised.
Oh, see,
I'm
that's what I
a.
thought. You said you were from New Zealand. I'm like, oh, so she might not know understand what I'm talking about. Okay, now I look like an ass.
No, 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 no. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. I get it. I didn't say, oh yeah, I'm American. I'm American.
And that's fine. I mean, I just want good comics. I want good stories. I want good art.
Yeah.
I'm very simple, and it's just the more books I pick up, I'm just like, huh. Either it's a throwaway book, like it has not enough story, not enough meat on the bone for me to care. I think that was the newest Infinity Prime book, and they had one of my favorite artists of all time, Mike Diodato Jr. on it, and I'm like, oh, I got to get this. Again, I follow artists, and I read through the book, and it became almost a throwaway book, and I kept seeing on Twitter how good this book was, how people were promoting it, and that's what made me like, oh man, I got to go get that. And they got Mike Diodato. Oh man, this is gonna be awesome! Finally, a good book, and it was an okay book at best, I thought. It really didn't leave me wanting the next book. It's just like,
Yeah, I had that recently with a book, comic book series I was reading. I bought the first two, and I was excited to get the third. I read the third, and then I just went, well, I have no interest in buying anything further than this. And it's partially a story issue, and it's partially like I said earlier, the art styles changing
mm-hmm.
kills me. At one point, the art style changed halfway through the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, they won't pay artists anymore. At least at Marvel, the last contract that I was offered to ink. That was a year and a half ago, and that was 70 bucks a page. Um, and
Yeah. I got paid more in the 90s.
yeah, well, you kind of have to expect that. I mean,
Yeah.
the '90s was the boom.
Yeah.
Everybody was getting paid
Well,
then.
yeah, I mean, it was before the boom and after the boom, whatever. But yeah, they lowered rates. They don't take inflation into account. Um, but it's yeah. I mean, there's probably great books that are produced by the big two, and it's like back. I mean, I've read most of the comics I've read were in the 70s, 80s, 90s. I've read comics since then,
Mm-hmm.
but my reading habits have gone to shit. Because I mean, I used to read at least a novel a month plus a stock of comics. I mean, at the height of it, and this was only because I was getting free comics from everybody I work for. I was probably reading like 100 books a week, 150 books a week sometimes.
I was never that. Oh God, I'm just
But
looking it
it
up.
was like, I mean, even back at the height of Marvel and DC, they still put out a good 80% of crap. If you're going through every book they're putting out,
Yeah.
We remember all the great stuff, sure, but
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Well, when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the top name books.
yeah,
Remember when if there was an X-Men book, you made sure you had Jim Lee on it. You
yeah,
you made sure you had Will Sparticio either on X-Men or X Factor. These big name artists that when you looked at their work, you're like, wow. Uh
yeah,
they brought a whole nother level to a page. And you understood why these guys were on the top selling book.
yeah,
Either A, they helped make it top selling, or B, they helped keep it top selling. When you see some of these artists now on top name books, I as an artist, and I'm not a artist with all the accolades, but I'm fairly well accomplished, at least in my opinion. You
We'll agree with
uh
you.
uh when for me, Marvel used to be the bar, that everybody wanted to reach. When you saw those artists come out, you're like, they came out like rock stars. I mean, these guys were it. And every other artist wanted to be as good or better than them. They set the bar. And when I see a lot of these books, I'm like, wow, I could I could do that. What happened?
Well, I truly believe that, they they put out, um, what they put out, whatever.
Yeah, they do.
I'm sure some of it's good. Maybe even a lot of it's good. That isn't getting headlines. Just I I always believe like the underdog titles are probably the ones with the better stories anyway.
I,
Because that's the one with the least editorial intervention.
yeah.
um, but I believe it's our job as independent creators to, fight for our audience, but to put out better quality books,
Yes, it is.
because we're the next stage, there's no denying it. Marvel and DC, first of all, they don't have to make a buck. And second of all, they're making more money in video games and movies and everything else.
Hmm.
You know, Plush toys and blankets and whatever.
The only thing that I know of right now, and I'm feeling it in the wind, and I could be wrong. It won't be the first time, won't be the last, but it's starting to feel like that period in time right before Image Comics got formed. And
Yeah,
I remember that time vividly. I was the guy that was following McFarlane and Rob Liefeld and uh Will's Particio and Jim Lee. I was reading those books because of their art, and then they just up and left. I'm starting to. It feels like the industry is convulsing in that direction again. I mean, it won't be another image because you're not going to be able to you're not going to sell that many copies anymore. I just don't see it. There's no way in hell possible you're going to be selling millions of copies per print
it's
in this day and age.
but it's another event like that. Maybe not all in one place with a group of people, but maybe scattered amongst many.
Hmm.
It's like you talk about Comicsgate, and that is an uprising in itself.
Yep.
I mean, Ethan passed half a
500K.
million.
Yep.
Yeah, half a million. That's no small feat.
No.
And I think he did that in 2 months, if I'm
Yeah,
not,
something like that.
not mistaken. But still, I mean, that's amazing. Um,
Would
uh,
anybody here have a problem making 500K from a book?
yeah, totally.
Me, totally. I'm not.
All right, just just want to know.
Just think of the shipping.
Oh God. Yeah.
Sure, it would
No,
take me 500. Sorry, it would take me 10 years just to earn that at my
Yeah.
actual job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was talking to John Malin. He's the artist for Jawbreakers, and I was like, man, I am so interested to see how you guys are going to ship all these copies because I'm looking at I think I can't remember how many backers, but it was like, good lord, that's a lot of books.
Mm.
I had hell with like 200. They're talking in 9,000s.
Yeah, but if you have, I don't know how much of that is profit over product and shipping cost, but I'm sure he could afford to get a few people and help with the shipping.
Yeah, I'm already
Well, I
thinking
reckon
about
at
going.
that point, there are places that you can hire to
Yes,
assemble everything.
that's what I was
Yeah,
just about to say. They can be a little pricey, but I'm already looking at fulfillment centers. That's what you're talking about.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Just like here, send it out. Yeah, it costs me money. Yeah, I don't get to keep as much of my, but I have some accountability. B, I have a reputable company dealing with the fulfillment that and a one source place that can handle any comments or any information that the consumers need for when they're going to get their stuff and blah blah blah. Where me working 60-hour weeks, it's only a certain amount of time per week I have to actually answer stuff and actually do the shipping. So I would much rather go through a fulfillment center, even if it costs me.
a
Yeah,
little
sketch
bit.
therapy. I think he'll probably pull in about half of that net. It depends on where he's getting the book printed. Uh, but I would probably say he would net about 50% of that money at this point, as long as he does the logistics right. He didn't have a whole lot of crazy rewards that's going to cost a lot of money. I mean, it's mostly the book.
Yeah,
He's drawing the book, so that's the usually the heaviest overhead for a book. Um, so he's probably going to make about, I would say, after all said and done, anywhere between 200 and 250 grand. He's probably going to net in pocket.
yeah. I saw somewhere he gave his colorist a bonus.
Yeah, and see, I would
Yeah,
love to be able to do that with like my colorist or my letterer, or because I was saying, okay, I'm going for 10 grand. Let's buy some magical reason I make 30 grand on my Indiegogo. You know what? I'm helping the guys that put work in with me on this book and like, listen, guys, here's a little something extra. You did a fabulous job. Your work helped me get to this point. Here you go. I have no problem doing that. I would love to be able to do that, but it still remains to be seen if I can make the 10K.
yeah. Well, to go back to an earlier point, let's see.
You should be
Oh,
taking notes.
Ray Anthony Height
Uh
is
huh.
is the co-creator of Midnight Tiger. He
Yeah.
did it with Vito DeSante. Vito, I know him from Comic Store out in New York.
Hmm.
Um, there, I believe he has old school view of things that, yeah, maybe his time at Action Lab didn't profit him enough.
Hmm.
Um, but I believe, I believe we can build audiences and we can make net a profit and not feel like we're on some street corner with a tin cup,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and I mean, as a fan, uh, I would pay for amazing teams to get together on an awesome creation.
You
You
would
know,
pay a
I would,
premium for it.
yeah, I would pay a premium for it.
Hmm.
And I expect there's fans that will sort of take the chance on that possibility that it's like Kirby wasn't fantastic on the first book he did. He wasn't fantastic on the 100th book he did.
That's
But
blasphemy.
all right,
No, I
is,
understand.
is this the end of the show?
And cut.
No, but it's like I believe he's like he's a genius because he had the opportunity
Yes.
to do book after book after book after book after book. I mean, at the height, he was doing 2-3 books a month. I mean, you don't
that's insane.
get
That
get
is.
get the genius gene without doing something 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. You heard the 10,000 hours thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and it takes money and time for any artist to build that foundation of just like from amateur to professional, and as solo creators or small teams of creators going out there and making books, um, there's a lot more involved as opposed to the old days where you were part of a team that you're working for a publisher and you had a really good paycheck and yada yada. Now it's like you're dealing with not only putting the book together and dealing with all the printers and distribution and all the ins and outs, but you're also dealing with social media, and it's like you have a lot less time on your hands to do the work if you want to become a presence out there. But I believe, I truly believe it's possible to do it all and get the benefit of it.
Well, I think I've been able to um, prove that it can be done. I have a saying, I've posted it on Twitter several times, where you, as a human being on this planet, you get really one choice in life. You can choose excuses or you can choose progress. Everybody doesn't get the same opportunities. Everybody doesn't get the same shot with the same hurdles and blah blah blah. But in the end, it doesn't matter if your journey was harder or longer or took more turns than the next guy. Did you get to where you were trying to get to?
Right.
And that's what I promote. A lot of these younger artists and younger comic book creators, I see them on Twitter and they're talking about how hard it is and blah blah blah. Yeah, well, yeah, it is. I mean, I'm in the same boat. It's not easy. Go, go, go over those hurdles. Don't sit here and cry about it. Just go over it. Keep going.
it's hard to hunt for sharks too, but
Yeah, people still do it. And if one person can do it, that means
yeah,
you can do it too.
yeah. I mean, if it's something you love, you will pursue it
Correct.
because in life, to me, in life, everything is hard. When it comes right down to it, to do it once is easy, but to do it again and again and again and again and again and again and again, that's hard.
Hmm. But it's
And
possible.
yeah, and to do it, at your best each and every time, you know, that's hard. But yeah, it's fulfilling as hell.
It is. It is. When I get up at 5:30 in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I don't get home till 7 o'clock at night. This is a normal day working for me. I sit, yeah, that's a normal day.
Yeah.
So I get home, I drop off my stuff, I rush upstairs into my office, and I draw for an hour to 2 hours while my wife is screaming that food is cooked and blah blah blah. To come eat. So by 9:30, 10 o'clock, sometimes I stumble downstairs. I'm dead on my feet. I eat. I talk to the kids and blah blah blah. And then I hit the sack about 11, and I'm back up at 5. But guess what? I got some of the book done that day. That's what a lot of people don't see. They see the art. They're like, "Oh man, that looks badass," but they don't see. I think Sketch Therapy was saying this. They don't see the struggle. They just see the final product. They don't see what it the sacrifices that it took to get that said product. So when they say, "Well, why can't how can I make that?" I don't have the time, or I don't have the resources, or in whatever excuse there may be. Well, it's like I'm doing it too. That's what I keep telling these people. It's like whatever you're going through, I'm probably going through as well. Um, So it's not magical. It's just a lot of times it's just hard damn work and sacrificing time, sometimes sacrificing money to get this stuff done. And if you if this is your passion and this is your goal in life and this is what you want to do, then by all means go for it.
I think the thing is everybody wants something magical to be handed to them so that they could automatically just be amazing at everything.
Exactly.
Now, I'm not the best example of this. I was waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning and not getting home until 7:30 or 8. And my wife works on an American schedule, so um, I didn't see her if it was a weekday. um, and I ended up quitting my job recently because it was too much to hang on to. But for most people, that's not something that they can actually do. I mean, there were outside stressors. I would have continued
Mhm.
doing it if the people I worked with were. We'll not go into that, but but like
That was a
it's
whole nother
something like
conversation.
it's a whole nother conversation. But like you have to be able to struggle through it to continue getting better. Like I came into this entire art thing late. So all I have to do, and I remind myself this all the time, is all I have to do is make art. It doesn't
Mhm.
have to be good art. I just have to try to make it better art than it was the day before.
Yep.
And it takes time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There is no magic pill.
I
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I
agree.
start I started late in life. You know, I was 28. I pretty much thought at the time that it's like, why the hell am I starting a career right now? It's like I might as well not try at this point. You know, just stick with a stupid day job and enjoy life. But it was the first thing I latched onto in my life at that point, and still pretty much to this day that I was passionate about. You know, it's like, you know, I had a day job and I was a good worker. You know, I'm good at following, like, I could work for somebody who's the boss and do what they want and do it really good and yada and all that. Um, but this was something it's like, yeah, I'm working for a publisher, I'm working for an editor, I'm working for the penciler, whatever. Um, but I was on my own, and this is before internet. This is, it's
Yeah.
like when it was costly to be on the phone for a long time.
Oh, I
Because
remember those days.
my my phone bill was crazy back
We actually
when.
got charged for long distance.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like I was on my own, and I don't know, I was so driven, like, at no time before that in my life, um to make this a career. And I'm kind of really proud of that,
Yeah.
that I latched onto something I loved, and something I wanted to do. Because it's like I went to high school for art, and I went to college for art. I only did 2 years, but um at that point that I finished college early, because I essentially dropped out, I decided I wasn't going to do art for a living, because it was too precious for me.
Mhm.
And it was like a struggle. It's like I grew up reading comics, and my brother's a pretty big name in the industry, whatever. Um, but it's like, it's I wanted to go my own route, and I decided just to do 9 to 5 because I was happy enough to make a paycheck. Um, and I dabbled on the side. I still collected here and there. I mean, there were years where I didn't pick up any comics at all. Um, but it's like I was drawn back into the world, and uh, it was, it wasn't because, like, the decision that changed my life um, wasn't the only, like essentially what happened was I was, asked by my brother if I wanted to help out his friend Tex, uh, meet his deadline. Tex, Mark Texiera, was working on Ghostwriter for Marvel at the time,
Hmm.
and Jimmy was helping him out. And I said, sure, I could use a couple extra bucks, and I got time to kill, whatever. Um, so we went up to Marvel offices after they closed down for the day, and it was me, Mark, Jimmy, this other guy, Ken Branch, and maybe one other person, and myself, um, just working on pages of Ghostwriter, just like throwing them back and forth among all of us,
Hmm.
just to meet the deadline. And Mark Texiera, if you don't know, his style is very messy, so it all worked out.
Yeah, I've met him a
Um,
couple times too. He's a cool guy.
oh yeah,
Crazy.
he, he's always back then he was always hopped up on coffee and sugar donuts. Um, so it was just like an evening of madness, and being in the Marvel offices for the first time after it was closed down was amazing and surreal and unbelievable. Um, and I decided, like, pretty much 10 minutes in, that would be my career. To work in comics, to make comics, to my foot in the door would be as an inker. Um, but I really, like, that was an amazing, unbelievable first experience. But I truly believe, like, if that didn't happen, uh, I was somehow on the path to it anyway. And I don't know. That's all I have to say about that.
It's probably true. I mean, I would do it full time if I didn't have to feed children.
Right.
Yeah.
Starving artist is a real deal. And I don't want to put my kids through that. And plus, I have supplied them with a certain lifestyle, and I'm not going to tell them now we need to go to a different lifestyle because I want to do this.
So you should have
Um,
had the foresight, and you should have had the foresight to know.
yeah, so it's like, all right, I'm gonna let you get out of the house and be on your way, and then maybe I can make some heavy life choices along those lines. Um, but
you know, I,
it's
I gotta
something that me
say,
and my wife have talked about.
I don't know your kids, but they're going to be amazing
Uh,
to have, like, a dad like you.
I have 3 daughters, and I feel sorry for the men that marry them. Uh, because they are very stand-up people. Um, especially I've noticed when I just had one graduate, and another one will graduate this next school year or this school year coming up. I kept looking at their friends and the people that would come to the house in society. These type of kids, it was so different than probably when me and you and I were in high school.
Yeah.
Where when we were in high school, the jocks like owned the high school,
Right.
and everybody was a tier down, unless you were like ultra talented in one thing that just pushed you up into that tier. And now, like the jocks are like the bottom rung now. It's just weird. I was like, wow, this. And when the men or the guys, I don't know if it's just here in New Mexico, but the males in the school were very effeminate, just very. They weren't even gay. They were just very feminine, very just that way.
Metrosexual.
Not no. They were the next step. I mean, and that's not how I was brought up. I mean, you do it, Zebethan. You know Texans, uh, how we can be, but and I was fine with them. But I asked my kids one day. I was like, okay, I want to know because I'm not at the school all the time. I only see these kids that come to the house. Are there any guys like me? And they're like, Dad, what do you mean? Well, just a guy, you know, just like me, that speaks like me. Just want, we'll speak our mind, we'll stand up, not cower in the corner, be just me, like me. And they were like, no. And my oldest daughter is like, yeah, I wish there were some guys like you. And I was like, oh God. That's when I noticed, like, whew, I feel sorry for your generation, the guys in your generation that you marry, because you're you're going to wear the pants in the house. They cannot deal with you. And my oldest daughter, her boyfriend, he's a bodybuilder, big strapping young kid, and she snatches his balls on a daily basis. I mean, I'm just like, good lord, I feel so sorry for you. But I raised three strong women. They're highly intelligent. Uh, they don't sit there and whine. They go get stuff done. My oldest daughter, she had a job all through middle or not middle school. Her senior year. Now she's in firefighter academy, and I mean, these are just strong women that you don't mess around with unless you know what you're getting yourself into. So, and
Mhm.
I'm proud of who they are because for me, those are the type of people that tends to change the world, where they're not going to back down. I mean, they're going to be them, and good luck dealing with them because, especially at oldest, Jesus.
I went to quite a few high schools, and every single high school was different. So one of the high schools I went to had like the goths and
Hmm.
the emo kids and the freaks. Those were at the top rung. So I
Really?
fit in really well there. Um, yeah, that was in Arizona, but like if you went towards like California,
Okay.
um, it depended on what city you were in, and sometimes it was the jocks, and sometimes it was like the theater group, and sometimes it was the just the very smart, the most intelligent, the people who were in AP classes or honors classes. It was a very interesting thing to see going from one school to the next. That every place seemed to have a different social structure.
Yeah. I only was in Southeast Texas for high school. I remember because I went into the Air Force, and my first big introduction to the rest of the world was LAX. I went and I was going to my training station in Vandenberg up in North Carolina,
Oh,
northern.
hey, I was born there, Santa Maria.
Oh, yeah, not Long Puck.
Lompoc, Lompoc.
But I remember coming off the plane, going through the little turnstile, and I saw this white lady and a black guy kissing in the little area, and it threw me because I had come from such a very racial area where yes, that interracial stuff did happen, but it was kept very much on the down low, and for me to see it so open, it was almost like just a slam in the face. I was almost fearing for him. I'm looking around for him like, man, people are going to see you guys. And this was what, 96. um
Mm.
but high school wise, I mean, I guess we were the traditional Greece type high school. You had the outsiders, but you had the jocks. We didn't really have any goths. I didn't get introduced to goths to probably 97 when I was in Colorado Springs. Um,
I
which
think
was all
that's when it was resurging anyway.
Yeah, it was. Marilyn Manson was big then. It was popping up everywhere, and I'm always fascinated by other cultures. Uh, I, I'm not afraid of them or fear or hate them. I'm always interested. I want to get to know, and when I went to Art Institute of Denver for a year, it was a good mix of people. Plus, it's art school, so we're all a little weird and a little crazy.
Yeah.
I I found it fascinating just looking at all these different people, and different cultures and different life perspectives. I think that's what's helped me throughout my life is I've seen so many different little things to where it's like, wow, okay, even when I married my wife, um, her family, well, she's Mexican, mix of Mexican and German, but her family didn't like me. They didn't like a brother coming into the family initially. But as I got to know them, I was like, wait a minute, y'all eat the same foods I do, cook them the same way. Your music sounds like the Zydeco music from Louisiana. Yeah, it's like there's more there's more things that connect us that than separate us. Why? Granted, now I'm like the guy in the family until another brother comes in the family. Like, hey, there's a black guy in here. It's like, wait a minute, I'm already here. Oh, you don't count. You're different. What? um, it's just so weird. I just want to go back. If there's any guys that in listening or ever will listen to this that want to marry my daughters, good luck. Just good luck, cause it ain't gonna be easy, unless you're just real.
Yeah, I grew up in a part of Brooklyn that was mostly all white, and we weren't too far off from a very, very Jewish neighborhood. Like I had to walk past it or through it to get to school. Um, and it wasn't until like maybe I was going to junior high, and I had to take I had to make up a course or something and go to night school, and that was Erasmus in Brooklyn. Um, I was pretty much the only white kid that went to that night course, and there was like one Spanish kid. Um, so that was very different for me. But I was like, part like this is totally new to me, but part like, I welcome this because I've been such a protected childhood. Um, and when I went to high school, it was like freaking walking, joining X-Men. Because there was a Russian, there was an Asian girl, it's like everything, you know, um, you could possibly think of, and I really loved it.
Yeah, I think that was the advantage. One of the advantages I had was coming from a Creole family that had so many ethnicities mixed in. We we always laughed and said, we have one requirement for you to be in our family, to be accepted in our family. You have to learn how to cook. If you don't know how to cook, we're gonna look at you sideways. But if you know how to cook, we don't care what race you are. Can you cook? Well, yeah. Come on in. That was it. That was the requirement. We had such a mix uh, of peoples. Um, it was just everybody's invited. Come on in. As long as you respect everybody and respect the rules of whoever's house you're at, and you respected people when you spoke to them, it was a whole lot of yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. We didn't care who you were. Come on in. Oh, you white? Good job. Oh, come on in. and you were treated equally. It didn't matter. Uh, I my girls used to have a little gay guy. This was a little bit. I think they were in middle school, and he would come over and play with the girls. I had no problem with him, and he he went outside wearing my girl's dress and high heels, playing dress up, and I had a fucked up neighbor, and she jumped his ass outside, and I had a rule in which I told every parent that left their kids at our house was I'm going to treat your kids like mine. They will be protected equally as I would do my own. I will treat them no different than my children. And that goes for everything good. That goes for everything if I have to chastise them. So when that woman went after him, I went after the woman.
Mm.
And I had my wife call his mom, and she broke down crying at my house. I'm like, what the hell? Why are you crying? I've just never had anybody treat my son like that. You guys just accepted him, and now you're damn near in a fight outside protecting him. It's like, listen, I told you. I don't care if your child is gay. He respects me. He respects my house. He respects my rules, and he's a good kid that plays with my daughters. That's all I care about. I don't care if he's white. I don't care if he's Mexican. I don't care if he's gay. I'm going to protect him just like any other child at my house. And it was just so odd that she felt so strongly about that. For me and in my family, that was common. I was
Yeah.
doing nothing special. That was common. But at least here um it was just like I had a halo over my head, and I'm like, dude, listen, I'm no angel. I have my faults. But it's just it's always kind of weirded me out.
It, I my parents were really old fashioned. I mean, they both passed on, but
I agree,
when
sketch therapy. I'm sorry, I had to say that because he just said something that I used to say. You read that last one. As a straight man, I don't understand why I would ever be angry at men dropping out of the competition more for me. That's what I always said about gay guys. I was like, shit, yeah, come on, go ahead, dude. I got these.
Hey, get one to be your wingman.
I did that once. Awesome.
So, yeah, I remember when, I stayed home longer than I should have felt I should have. Like, I was living at home when I was 22 and left then.
Okay.
Although Jimmy stayed longer, so there's that. There's
I'm gonna send him
that.
a message. He was like, your brother's airing out all your dirty laundry.
um, well, he's well-rounded. I'm the weird one, but uh,
He's a
at the time,
writer. He's weird.
yes. But like, what I did was I moved in into an apartment with a friend of mine, and I I thought, like, okay, so like my parents will probably want to meet him, not knowing him other than maybe I mentioned him once or twice. It's like a friend from work, and so I invited him over for dinner, and uh, he was very friendly, and my parents were friendly, and it wasn't until I was like, okay, so I'm moving, and like pretty much out the door the next day kind of thing, that my father pulled me aside, and I,
Ask you
I,
the
for,
questions.
I forget, but I think it was like, are you, essentially him saying, are you gay? And I'm like, no. And it's like, I was shocked and pissed, and like so many feelings
Yeah.
rushed over me. It's like,
And
what the hell are you talking about? Like,
in which decade was that?
this was
Talking about the 80s? No,
80s, yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no, you're not that old. Now, you say you're like 22, right? During this time period.
Let's see. I was uh so 85.
Okay.
I think it was.
So
Um,
back then, I mean, homosexuality is still very frowned upon, uh, and
well,
considered in society as being weaker, not a
it,
man, being a man.
yeah. I mean, I think personally, my father was against it. He was in the war and probably beat up guys who look gay or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they were considered
Um,
weak.
yeah. I mean, I was around that when I was, like young teens, like, that was still a thing.
Hmm.
Um, but, uh, I think he was just reaching, like, he really didn't want to see me go kind of thing. And maybe he was putting two and two together wrong.
Yeah,
Um, but I was like, no, he's just a friend.
yeah, like yeah,
And it was also because I mean most of my youth I was shy and quiet, and um, I wasn't about to even if I had any semblance of a girlfriend, I wouldn't bring them over to the house. So the only friends I brought over were guys because I felt comfortable doing that, and um, so it was what it was, but.
yeah. I can understand that. I it took me a while to kind of center myself, understand homosexuality, and to kind of go against how I was taught and brought up, because that was like I was saying, if you, especially if you're a homosexual guy, you weren't being a man. You're being a punk. You're just the woman, and blah 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 blah. And having to overcome those teachings and understanding that these people are just like me. They just want to live. Hey, I've been listening or watching Sketch Therapy talk. You know, we just want to be free. Let me do me. I'll let you do you,
Yeah.
and we can call it a day.
Yeah.
Most of us, we don't want our houses to burn down. We want our kids to grow up and succeed in life. We all believe that it doesn't even matter what sexuality or gender or even ethnicity. Uh, I just want my freedoms. I'm not stopping you or hating you for doing yours, even if I agree with it or don't agree with it. You're free. I'm going to judge. Keep saying and telling people I'm judging you on the merit of your character.
Yeah. I mean,
Period.
I I always want to be free to do what the hell I want. So my opinion of everybody else is like, if you have a certain religion, if you want a lifestyle that's different from mine, that's fine.
Yeah.
As long as you're not killing people or whatever,
Yeah, you're not out there killing and hurting people or, doing bad shit to kids and all this other stuff. Dude, I
yeah,
don't care. I really
yeah.
don't. I mean, I know like Zebethany, is she even still there? Did she die on us?
Oh no, I'm still here. I'm my
The
stomach's rumbling. I'm just like, oh god, I'm dying.
Uh,
I'm sorry.
well, we'll probably end soon. I mean, I've been up since 5, and now 5 a.m. yesterday, and now it's almost 3 a.m. tomorrow or something.
It's only one. But the one thing I wanted to say was, I've completely lost track of what the hell I was saying. Um,
You do you.
yeah, yeah, you do. These are your freedoms, and I remember when the big thing about 10 years ago in America was the same sex marriages.
Right.
And me and my
Yeah.
wife, we have these discussions, and I'm like, well, I don't care. And she's like, really? I'm like, why would I care? Does Does two people getting married do anything to you? Does it affect us in any kind of way? No, I
See,
have no problem with it.
those are the biggest confusions I have. Is like, God, I don't care what people are doing as long as it's not interrupting me. Like, I'm really hating my next door neighbors right now because they're building a house. That affects me.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Besides that, I don't care.
I'm with you. I am directly with you. It bothers me not. And then people kept saying during that time period, well, what if people want to start getting married to dogs? It's a little weird, but sure. I don't care. It affects me not. you know, I really don't care. It just it and those type of things that unfortunately today saying the things that I have um said in this thing and some of the things you guys have agreed with, that is so frowned upon now. I mean, to where the internet mob comes after you. I mean, and then they call themselves liberal, but they're actually contradicting the actual definition of being liberal because they
Mm.
want to put more control over what I say. Never understood that.
Yeah.
So I speak my mind and let the chips fall where they lay. I'll piss some people off, and some people will like me. I can't please everyone, so nor do I try.
Well, it's like once you get away from the internet, like there are a lot of people who are on the internet a lot, and I'm one of them. I love the internet. The internet is
Hmm.
great.
I love it too.
But but like when you go out into the real world where there is no internet and people are talking and it has nothing to do with any of the crap being said on the internet,
Yes.
you realize, oh wow, there are people who are thinking rationally who can have a conversation. Like I'm not saying the internet can't have a conversation. I'm just saying they can't have a conversation rationally without interjecting ideas that you never even said.
Yeah. 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 They love putting words in your mouth. Uh, I saw the
And
whole thing
twisting
with
things.
yeah, especially recently with the thing with James Gunn and
Yeah.
his uh how should I say his despicable nasty things that he said. And I'm all down, as sketch therapy has been saying, I'm all down for freedom of speech, but sometimes there's consequences for the shit you say. Um,
Yeah, yeah. You're free to be an idiot. It's
yep.
just you're gonna be criticized for it.
Yep. Yeah. But if people, when I saw people when they were not not trying to make what he did was okay, but at least putting a different perspective on it. They weren't,
Mm.
they weren't saying that it was okay, but saying, well, he could have this problem and blah blah blah. And these people were getting called pedophiles. Like, wait, whoa! How am I offering another perspective on this now a pedophile?
Yeah.
And then just like, and that's the type of thing that I keep seeing. There's certain dog whistle words that people use: racist, pedophile, homophobe, transphobe, and they immediately label you. And then the mob says, "Oh, there's another transphobe, huh? Here we come!" And like, really? I'm I'm not okay, whatever. And you just kind of you kind of just want to put the keyboard down. It's like, you motherfuckers. I'm trying to help you, but yet you're attacking me. Um, and that was one of the reasons I joined Comicsgate. The only fear I have right now is that there's so much hate and animosity between the quote unquote
I
SJWs. Oh, what she got?
I have no interest in joining any of the gates that are out ever because God, they both sides seem so stupid to me. I
Well,
just I just I
and
want to
then
make things. I want to be able to sit in my living room, watch terrible trashy TV
what I
and
do,
and and live my life.
yeah, And
Yeah.
what I did was with Comicsgate, because I was watching it for about a year, give or take, how this was all forming, especially with diversity in comics. I didn't agree with everybody and everything, nor did I agree with how a lot of people were approaching it. You can't fight fire with fire, because all you end up with is a whole bunch of fire, and nobody knows what fire belongs to who. Um, but the the moment I said, okay, I'm on this side of the fence, was when the whole planned attack against Richard Meyer, by that crowd and some professionals. I was like, wow, these people will plan a physical attack on another person at a convention because they disagree and hate what he's speaking about. Um, that was that moment where I was like, oh no, I can't be on that side. I cannot be part of that.
Well,
Um,
see, the thing is I can't be on either side because I think extremists exist on, like, wherever you go, there are going to be extremists. But not only that, I don't agree with what either side is saying completely. And if you sit yourself on the fence, like, you're screwed. But if you go to either side, if you go to either side, it means that that one side is going to say that you agree with everything the other
correct.
side
You,
says.
you
There's
yes.
there's there's no winning for losing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
For me, it was, as sketch therapy has been saying, it's a freedom of speech. Like me, I would fight for a KKK's member to be able to say what he wants to say. Again, I'm a black guy, so I probably wouldn't like 99.9% of what's going to come out of his mouth. But
Right.
I am fighting for his freedom to be able to say it, simply because if I don't fight for his freedom to do it, then they can take away my freedom to say what I believe. And there's a crux in that. Now, when I joined Comics Gay, and one of the things that I have been trying to promote with people, don't attack these people. Let them say what they're going to say. That whole saying of, don't argue with idiots, because from a distance you can't tell who's the idiot and who's the smart one. So just leave it alone. Like, okay, I kill you with kindness. I will treat you with respect. I won't go out of my way to berate you. I won't come in there with slurs. I will talk to you as a normal person. Your merit, the merit of your character, will be shown on how you decide to talk to me. Um, and I have continued on, because there is another way. I can understand the outrage. I can understand the hatred currently, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to create badass comics that people want to read, that the type of comics that I miss reading, that a lot of the comics gators miss reading and miss having, the type of art that these guys want, because I agree with their uh the type of product that they want, and it's the type of product that I create. So I'm going to keep hammering and creating the best product I can. There's very few times I say a lot. I occasionally something on Twitter catches my eye, and I like, all right, I gotta say something. Uh, Kwanzaa, whatever his name is. Oh, that guy got under my skin. Um, but even then, I will be articulate and I will be respectful. I have no reason to start throwing slurs around. I have no reason. I don't want my message destroyed by the presentation of it. And I think a lot of the comic skater needs to watch that. The presentation, your message, I think the core of the message is great. It's freedom to be able to create what the hell we want, you know, but how you present that message means a lot. If it comes out as the SJWs will say, the misogynists, the homophobes, the transphobes, if it comes out in that light, then the message kind of gets lost and everybody's worried about the rapping. Um, So I just give it to you the message respectfully, but sternly. This is where I stand and why. And I let the chips fall where they may. And we'll see. We'll see if people want my product, and we'll see if people do not. I mean, that's going to be the test. Because I think my way is better than just throwing it in their face. Because all you're going to do is get back. Because I would love for the problem to be solved where people can meet and find a middle ground. Granted, it's going to be up to the companies to do that. Uh, what I would like, because my fear is, and I've said this a couple of times on Twitter, my fear is that issue with Richard Meyer from Diversity in Comics, where there was a planned physical attack at a convention, that escalating. Because all it takes is one person. It takes one person that's reading Twitter and getting all gassed up, and they might not be completely right. You know, a couple of synapses ain't right, ain't firing right, and somebody ends up hurt or killed. And we've seen this before. We've seen this time and time again, especially in America, where all it takes is a gun at the right time, gaslight lit to the right level, and this gets blown completely out of proportion. It's no longer a conflict of ideology where someone has died over this. And that's what I don't want to see.
Yeah. Well, hopefully nobody wants to see that.
It's the danger is there.
Yeah.
So, and I see it. I I'm sitting here watching, and I was like, all it takes is somebody that just doesn't care enough anymore. You know, they're like, you know what? I'm gonna kill that son of a bitch. That's what they're gonna say. You know, and they could believe in their minds that they're doing the right thing, um, and then you have a dead body on our hands, and I don't want to see that. And that's why what I promote within Comics Gate is this method of talking with people and dealing with people that have converse ideologies versus you. And again, maybe you can find the middle ground, maybe you can't, but in the end, everybody won't be all. It won't be about hatred. It'll just be a difference of opinions.
I think the problem for me is I can't join something that I would then be associated with forever.
Yeah.
If I don't believe in everything that they're saying.
Mhm.
Like if I believe 90%, sure, but if it's like 50-50,
Yeah, I think it's about that for me. It's about 50-50. It's right around there. But for me, I rather take a stand and fight for what I believe in, no matter if I'm part of this group or whatever. Because if the chips came down, let's say a publisher wanted to hire me, I was like, oh, wait a minute, you're part of Comicsgate. I don't know if I want to hire you now. I can easily point to my social media, anywhere, be it YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. What hate do you see there? You tell me. Which hate? You know, if you're going to judge me on me, find where I'm spouting slurs, find where I'm projecting hate to anyone. That's why I do it the way I do it, because I don't want to be labeled as this. I want to be able to have a conversation with people, no matter what side I'm on.
Right. Well, we can continue, but I am exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting there. I'm getting there too. I was supposed to be writing Asgard today, and yeah,
Yeah.
that happened. But I hadn't been on your show in a while, and I wanted to
Yeah.
stop by because I was actually off, and like, well, you know, I'm off. I'll come by.
Awesome. Always great to have you on. And you are so articulate.
Oh,
like
I wouldn't go that far, but
compared to this Brooklyn boy.
Zebethy, didn't you say you were on YouTube?
I am.
Yes.
I'm looking
Under
for you.
Zebethy.
No.
Go figure.
Go figure. I'm going to put both your links below so everybody who watches in the future can click on your links and go check out your works. Because you're both real good. Um,
All right, I got Zebethy signed up and subscribed to.
Sweet. Yeah, she's crazy good, and she should have so many more subscribers. Go check out her work.
Thanks. I feel really embarrassed right now.
Aw.
We're giving you props.
and I mean, it's just like you're so professional too, and it's like I slap together my videos, and I do know the proper way to do things, and I will be cleaning up my act a little bit. I'll never be 100% polished as far as my videos go, but
Yeah, I don't even try anymore.
yeah, that's part of my charm, I guess. Hopefully, just agree with me.
I agree with you.
But yeah, I mean, great conversation. Thanks for everybody who watched during the show, joined the chat. Sketch therapy. Thank you for writing a book during the show. I'll go back and read it when I get some time. I quote every like fifth comment he made. But yeah, great episode. Probably one of the longest we've done in a while.
Yeah, that's what happens when I show up.
Yeah. But next episode is going to be my 50th. I don't have anything planned, but
What the hell,
yeah.
dude? You gotta do something special.
Yeah, I'll work up to it, so it'll be something special. I'll try to get a bunch of people on.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would
If
be
I'm
special.
off, I'll be happy to. If I'm awake and off,
Yeah, a rare combination.
yeah, and I'll ramble less. I'll just sit here quietly.
And draw more.
Yeah, that's usually the deal. If you get me drawing, I'm good. I'm usually fairly quiet.
All right. So any parting thoughts, or you want to throw your link up, Ben?
You can find me on Twitter at Exiled Angel. It's spelled a little weird at XZILLED Angel at Exiled Angel. Ben Jones Art for YouTube, Instagram, and there's the Asgard graphic novel Facebook page. Keep a lookout for Asgard #1 of a 4-part miniseries going to Indiegogo September 8th. On my birthday, I'll be 42, so make it a good one.
Woohoo.
And yeah. Say that not, sir. So yeah, and if anybody ever has questions, want to talk to me, especially on Twitter, it's a lot easier. You can DM me, you can tweet me, and do whatever. I'm always happy to answer if I am awake and if I am off of work and I'm available. I'll answer any questions, talk to you, discussions of about anything.
Awesome. And thank you so much for coming on tonight, Zebethy. Is
Thanks
awesome
for
to have
having me.
Yeah, we had before the show. We were doing a messenger chat, me and Zebethy, and that's probably the longest one I've done with somebody. Usually it's quick messages back and forth, but it's like we got into a whole conversation.
Yeah, paragraphs about doing challenges and why people started doing comics, and
It was lots of fun.
it's good.
And I'm so glad to have you on tonight. It was great to have you, and I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did. It was great. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I couldn't be more chatty than I am.
Oh, it's how it goes sometimes,
Yeah. I did want to say, Zebethy, I love that name. I love the ring of that name. I'm gonna have to use it in a comic somewhere. I have to write that down.
It's my name.
See,
It's So my name's Elizabeth, and my last name's Yetarian. So I took the Zebeth from Elizabeth and added the Y from Yetarian, so Zebethy.
I like that. It has a really good ring to it. Sorry, the creator brain in my head just kind of popped up like, hey, why don't you use that?
You don't have to pay her royalties.
Yeah. All right. Maybe I won't be using
it. I give you permission to use it as long as it's not a terrible character.
Yeah.
Nope. Hey, you might be my first gay character in the book. You never know.
There you go.
That'd be cool. Oh wait.
She's like, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. This could end badly.
I could die in.
No, I will not kill you. I've already killed my other friends in the first book.
Oh my god!
They asked for it.
That's how you can tell your friends, right?
Yeah. All the people that have horrible deaths in the first this book that I'm doing now, just my friends, because they wanted to die in the book. Like, all right,
it's interesting moments in the story.
Yeah. So when you see the book and there's a horrible death, oh, that must have been one of his friends. Like, yep.
That's like a hug.
That's me showing my love.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I gotta sign out.
All right. Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Subscribe if you haven't liked this video and share with your friends.
All right, man. Take care.